Please welcome to the stage, Jilian Richardson!
Hi, everyone. So, who here had a brother or sister who was older than them and way cooler than they were? Yeah, so that was me. My sister was the kind of person, she was 6 years older. She was the star of the varsity volleyball team. She dated a Calvin Klein underwear model. And she was the kind of person when she walked by a guy, one time he was in a golf cart and was just looking at her and crashed into a tree. So meanwhile, there's 10-year-old me. I'm in the school chamber choir. We have this outfit that's like one of those ruffly white shirts that are not flattering at all, a blue cummerbund, blue bow tie. I do Harry Potter role-playing with my friends. We're just really different people. And I just feel like I can't compare to the coolness that is my sister. I get my first kiss when I'm 16 to a guy who is he's obsessed with dirt biking. His name is George Stern. He ignored me in driver's ed. I lost my virginity at 19 to a guy who I thought was really cool. And then the next week, he invited me to a party and was making out with another girl when I got there. So by the time I was 20 years old, I had no confidence in myself in relation to men. I thought that I wasn't gonna be able to have a good relationship with a guy. So when I'm 20 years old, I am interning in New York City. And it's really a place where, people say anything could happen, but I was spending most of my nights at Columbia University just sitting on my laptop and just browsing through the internet. And one day I'm watching a documentary called Hotline, which is about people whose job it is to be a hotline and they talk to strangers. And there were people who were psychics or who worked for crisis hotlines, and there was one about sex workers who worked for hotlines. And this I thought was very interesting. And one of the sex workers mentioned that she got most of her clients through FetLife. For those of you who don't know, FetLife is a website that's like Facebook for people who have kinks. And I was just really curious. I was like, I want to go on this website and check this out. So I made kind of a shell account just to see what it was like, just to look around. I wasn't gonna do anything, of course. But I started to notice, I was just going through people's profiles and saw things that I really liked and started adding it to my own profile. So slowly I start to build a profile. Then I noticed there's an events tab and it has things that cool kinky people do in New York City. And I was like, maybe I'll do something like that, maybe in the future. And that's how I end up in a sex dungeon. I am there, I am standing in front of an entire class and I'm learning how to paddle a man. And it's me, and the demographics of this class is totally different than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a lot of people who were new at this and didn't really know what they were doing. Turns out it was me and a bunch of professional dominatrixes who were just there to kind of up their skills, just learn some new stuff for fun, and then it's me, and somehow I end up in the front of the room learning how to do all these things because the teacher thinks it's cute because I'm absolutely terrified. And at one point in the class, the teacher says, all right, it's time for us to work one-on-one. She gives us a script, and she just goes, all right, grab your slaves. And there's a bunch of men, by the way, in the back of this room who are there as volunteer slaves, which to me was very new. It's like, okay, cool. I'm still processing that you just said the phrase volunteer slaves. But of course, all these women are pros, so they are ready. They do not give a fuck. They see someone who they like. There's this one guy who's really hot. He's a surgeon. They see him and they grab him, and all the guys are taken except for one. And that's who I end up with. He looks like he maybe could have been my cab driver on the way over there. He's in his 60s, he's Eastern European, he's kind of chubby, and he really doesn't speak English. I'm like, how did this guy end up in this class? It's like a very specific place for you to be. So this is my partner I'm in this sex dungeon for 4 hours. I'm learning how to do everything to this guy. I am freaking out inside the whole time. I'm losing my mind. On the outside, thank God this teacher gave me a script of things to say, so I'm just looking at it. I'm just trying to use my soft, threatening voice, telling him to look at the floor so I don't have to make eye contact with him because I'm panicking. And I'm in there for 4 hours. By the time the class is over, I leave, I just get out of there. I'm standing on the sidewalk and I cannot believe I was just in a sex dungeon for 4 hours. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, I guess I go get falafel now? What do I do? And I'm just looking at my phone and someone taps me on the shoulder and says, goddess? I don't even realize this person could even possibly be talking to me, so I just keep looking at my phone, and they tap me again on the shoulder, just, goddess? I'm like, oh, that's me. This person's talking to me, right, of course, yes, Domly, I'm a dominant woman, yes, this person's talking to me. And I turn around, and it's the surgeon from the class who everyone was so excited to have as their slave. I was like, hey. And he tells me that he was really into the way that I presented myself in the class, and he thought I was really beautiful. And he just looks at me and says, I would like to be your slave. I'm like, okay. I'm so bad at being dominant just on the streets of New York City. I'm like, we could, no, I mean, do you want to do that? But oh no, I shouldn't be asking you if you want to do that because this is about what I want, right, okay. And I'm honest with him, and I tell him that I've not really done this before. I don't really know what I want, so I get this guy's number, I take a few days to think about it, and I decided that, yeah, I want to do this. I want to try this out. So I'm staying at a dorm at Columbia University, as I said. So I tell this guy to come all the way uptown to Columbia University to give me a foot massage. Because that's one thing in the class that we did that I really loved. And I was like, I can do this all day. This is easy. And he's into it. And so he meets me in front of the library at Columbia University. And I'm like, oh God, again, we're in public. What is the power dynamic here? I don't want to be mean to this person when there's other people around. Unless that's what he wants, but I have no idea. So we're just here for this domination thing. I'm just like, how was your subway ride? How's your CrossFit class going? What's up with you? And he seems kind of off-put that I'm not acting all dominating like I was in the class. I tell him again that I'm nervous. We walk all the way across the campus, and then we get to the security guard who's guarding my dorm. And we both have to give our IDs to the security guard, who takes a little bit longer than usual to look at the IDs because this guy is 15 years older than I am. The security guard's just like, what the hell is going on here? But he just looks and I'm waiting for him to say something, and he just goes, you kids have fun. Cool. So we finally get into my dorm room, and from here I actually have a plan. This is what I knew what we were gonna do. But I'm still really nervous, so I'm trying to think in my head, okay, what did we do in the class that was good? So I have him stand in the corner, just stand there, and I say that he does not yet have the gift of looking at me. That is one of my favorite parts from the class. I'm like, you don't have the gift of looking at me, because I am a gift, and you do not deserve it yet. Oh man. But really, I'm just taking this time to just breathe deeply and just not be panicking this whole time, because I'm like, oh my God. I was like, there's a man in my room standing in the corner, and he's doing it. I told him to stand in the corner, and he's doing it. So this is intense. And finally, I'm like, okay, and he's a CrossFit guy, he's really good looking, he's cut. And so the first thing I do is I just have him take off his shirt so I can literally just look at him and just run my hands over his body and just super objectify him. Which to me is amazing, because as a woman that happens to us all the time, but without our consent, it just happens constantly. So for me to just be checking out this guy and like making him kind of uncomfortable. But he's into it, I'm into it, and then I say, all right, it's like time for the foot massage part. So what I do is I sit on my bed. You can all do this at home if you want. Very easy. And you just have them sit on the ground. You wrap your legs around their necks. So you're like kind of choking them, but like not too much. And I ask him, what have you, and this is good because I didn't have to look directly in his eyes. I could just, he was sitting down there and I'm up here. And I ask him, what have you done for your goddess this week? And he tells me that instead of going to his CrossFit classes, which were very important to him, he skipped it and paid for a class to learn how to do massage instead. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is so good. But again, I'm like, no, don't act happy. Like, this happens to you all the time. And so I tell him that's good. And he starts to massage my feet and my calves. And he's like getting really into it. And I'm starting to get more into this dominant persona now that we're actually there. And I'm telling him that I own him now. And it's awesome. And then at some point, he's starting to get really into it. And he asks me to take off my clothes. And this kind of goes one against the dynamic. And I'm a little tempted to do it because, to be honest, in the past, I've had relationships with men where I go farther with them than I would want to sexually just because I like them and I want the thing to keep going. So I just do it. And I was like, wait, no, like, what are you thinking? You're dominant in this situation. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And so I tell him, no. Like, you're just gonna massage me. That's all this is gonna be. You're not getting off. This is not for you. This is for me. And it was amazing to say that. And just to have that power dynamic totally switched with a man. And I tell him, like, you're gonna finish this massage and you're gonna get out of here and you're not gonna look at me because, again, I'm a gift and you get to look at me as a gift. And also, before he's about to leave, I also add, and now on, when you're gonna masturbate, you're gonna have to ask me for I can't even say it now. You're gonna have to ask me for permission first. And I was just like, no one told me to say that. That just came out of my own mouth. I just said it. And after that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna use this summer to keep on exploring myself sexually. And I was in New York. I decided to take full advantage. So I was going to sex clubs. I was meeting all these people who were into so many different things. Like, I saw fire play and like wax play and people using electricity, like people who were sissies, people who were mermaids, people who dressed up like cats. And it was just so interesting to be in this world where I was constantly pushing my boundaries. And I noticed that in my regular dating life, or like my vanilla dating life, I had more people than ever asking me out. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I'm getting more confident. And the things that had happened to my sister started happening to me. So I had people spending $400 on dinner for me, and I had people asking me to go to the Hamptons. And it was really cool, but for some reason, I honestly didn't feel that happy with it. And I thought about why I liked women who were dominatrixes. And I realized that the reason that I liked them is because they didn't give a shit what other people thought about them. They didn't need other people to validate them. They just loved themselves as they are. And I realized that I had made that transformation when a guy asked me to go to the Hamptons with him, and I didn't even care. I was like, why? Like, I don't even want to do that. But before this whole experience, I would have been thrilled. And in the class that I took, the dominatrix class, the woman promised that we would find what she called our inner pussy power. That's what she had said. And so really, when I had a guy spend $400 on dinner on me and then asked me to go home to sleep with him, I felt totally confident saying no. And that's when I knew that I had found my own pussy power. Thank you.